What would you do if you saw a bug in your house that was bigger than a mouse? Or one that could jump more than 6 feet? Or one that can be frozen solid for 3 months, then thaw out and go on living as if nothing ever happened? Let's find out more from our special guest, Carl Kirby, with Answers in Genesis, in our next segment, New Zealand's Wonder Weta.
Well, my favorite insect has to be the Weta. It is an amazing insect. There's over 100 species of it, and they live in New Zealand. They're cold-blooded, they're nocturnal, and each one is unique in its own way. They live in almost every environment that New Zealand has to offer. You'll find them in forests, you'll find them in grasslands, you'll find them in caves, mountains, you'll even find them in the sandy beaches. They just truly are an amazing insect. And when I say they're diverse, they are a diverse group. They range from the giant Weta, which is a herbivore, they'll eat plants, to the tusked Weta. The tusked Weta is pretty rare. There's only 3 species of the tusked Weta, and they're actually pretty tough customers. They're the predators. They'll hunt after the other invertebrates and really go after the other insects to eat them. And they actually have tusks like an elephant as well. Then there's the cave Weta, and they're omnivores. They'll eat anything they can find. Even though each one of these insects is different and unique, they do have one thing in common, and that's the predators that will hunt them. Birds, reptiles, bats, they all eat their fair share of the Weta, but humans have also played a big part in killing them as well. Humans, when they brought in cats and hedgehogs and rats and those types of things, have really done some damage to the Weta, to their environment. All of those factors have really played a role, and some of them, again, like the tusked Weta, are endangered because of that. They're not defenseless, though. The Weta, some of them have very powerful mandibles, and they can take a chunk out of you if you mess with them too much. Tree Weta, their bites are pretty painful, I've been told. Fortunately, I've never had to experience it myself, but not very common, but it can happen. Then there's other Weta that they actually have thorns on their hind legs, and they look pretty scary. If you mess with them, they'll stick their legs up in the air to say, look, back off. If you mess with me, I'm going to scratch you. But really their main defense is just trying to look tough and look mean. They really will, if given the opportunity, they're going to run. They don't want to fight. They're pretty peace-loving insects. And their defensive must have worked pretty well, because they live for a pretty long time. They'll live anywhere from 2 years to 4 years. Now the cave Weta, he's the unique character. He can live up to 7 years. They're one of the insects that actually lives longer than the longest lifespan of any insect. There's one called the Wetapunga. They are very unique, and they're very large. As a matter of fact, they can get almost 3 ounces of insect. I mean, this is heavier than mice and heavier than some birds. So they truly are an amazing thing. They're the world's heaviest insect. They can be twice as large as a mouse. You will go from some insects, some Weta that are very small, about 1 inch in length, to some that are very large. The giant Weta, which are very large, they're, you know, over 3 inches. If you were to stretch them out with their hind legs stretched out, I've seen pictures of them, they're 6-7 inches long. The giant Weta is very interesting, and I truly like them, but again, they're not my favorite Weta, because I got to tell you about my favorite Weta, and that's the cave Weta. And remember, I told you they were kind of like the odd man out. They live longer than the other Weta. They're quiet. Their antennae, they have antennae on their head that are very, very long, almost 5 times the size of their body, the length of their body. They can jump over 6 feet. They're just very graceful, amazing little insects, and they're very, very unique, because the thing that I really like about them the most is that if you think about New Zealand, when you get into some of the caves at the top of mountains in New Zealand, well, it gets very cold in the wintertime, and there it will freeze. And these insects actually will freeze. They freeze solid for 3 months. They can survive in temperatures up to 10 below zero. Their bodies actually will be frozen. There'll be no brain activity, there'll be no respiration. And it's an amazing thing to see how that can work, because you and I, if our bodies freeze, I mean, we get frostbite. There are crystals that form in our blood, and it destroys the tissue, and there's nothing that can overcome that. Well, in the insect Weta blood, the hemoglyph, they actually have a glucose, this sugar, and that sugar keeps the crystals from forming and destroying the body structure of the Weta. When evolutionists try to tell us that, oh, look at the insects, these things just prove evolution. I mean, some scientists actually say that the cave Weta are living fossils. These prove that Weta have been around for millions of years. Well, they're still Weta. So it doesn't support millions of years. It doesn't support evolution at all. And I like to point out the fact that how does an animal with blood that has sugar in it really support evolution? I mean, what happened to the first insect that didn't have the sugar in his blood? When the winters came and the ice came and the snow came and they froze these bugs, if they didn't have that glucose in there, they would actually die. So where did that glucose come from? How did they get it? Millions of years, slow, gradual, random processes? It truly doesn't fit. To me, it actually supports what God said that he did in his word. God said that he created different kinds, and when he created kinds, he created them with the ability to be able to survive an environment that was going to change after the fall. I don't use that evidence to try to prove the Bible, but what I do try to do is I try to start from the Bible to understand the evidence. And if God created the way that he said that he did, and he knows that we're going to fall and we're going to change the environment, I would expect to find amazing diversity, amazing complexity within the animal kingdom. And that's exactly what we find in the Weta. So it's, I think that it screams that there's a creator God who knew what he was doing and knew how to prepare for such a time as we're living in today.
The Bible tells us over and over that creation is shouting from every point in the universe that God is the designer and creator of everything we see and don't see, including the wild animal kingdom, miraculous creations of God.